Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear participants. Welcome to the session of textual study of the Quran. There was a break of 3 weeks. I hope were able to recoup and enjoy your holidays. So we are back now, and inshallah, we hope to finish off Surah Al Imran today, and we will begin Surah Nisa, which is the next surah, in our next session. If you recall, the discussion in Surah Al Imran primarily revolves around the Christians, or the Nazarenes as they are called, and they are presented with their charge sheet. They are told that how they have ended up making Jesus the Son of God, and how actually Jesus never taught them this. And also, they are told that as far as Muslims are concerned, as far as the Prophet is concerned, he is someone that they know very well. He is someone that is introduced to them from their scriptures, and God has made this plan that He has chosen the progeny of Abraham to convey the truth to the rest of the world. And this progeny of Abraham was given the chance, and first the Israelites, who were, of course, the offspring of the prophet Isaac, they were given this chance, and they floundered this chance, and they did not do their duty, they did not discharge their duty, and they are being now taken away, and this chance from them is being taken away. And of course, the Christians were people who followed Jesus. They were the ones who, as followers of Jesus, they tried their best to present his message. And we know Christianity at the time of Jesus' death was, of course, nothing but Islam itself, because every prophet brings Islam. But it was later on that it was named as Christianity, or the Christendom. These terms all came into being later, and when they started relating themselves to Christ more and more, and ended up elevating him to the status of a deity, that all these terms got introduced. So when Jesus had passed away, he was, of course, the Quran says he was given a normal death. And at that time, it seems that he had very few disciples, and these disciples, they spread his message to various parts of the world. And ultimately, it was in around 330 AD, which we can say is roughly 300 years after Jesus had passed away, that Constantine the Great, the Roman emperor, he actually adopted Christianity as the national religion of the Roman Empire. And this is something which gave a tremendous boost to Christianity. And as a result, it became a very popular religion, and it spread far and wide. And after this 330 AD, you can see that by the time Prophet Muhammad arrived in 575 AD, was born. So in these 200 years or 220 years, we find that the spread of Christianity had really taken off, and they had spread far and wide. So just as they had spread at various instances and at various places, they had also come to Arabia. So just as the Jews had come into Arabia, the Nazarenes had also come into Arabia, and that is what they were actually called. So the word Nasara has been used in the Quran for Christians, and Nasara is the same as Nazarene in the English language. And this is because Jesus was actually born in Nazareth, the town of Nazareth, and that is also why he was called Jesus of Nazareth. And Nasara is the Arabicized version of the word. And so the Quran never calls them Christians. You will never find them being called as Christians. Yes, either they are subgrouped with the Jews, and they are called the people of the book, or when they are called separately, they are always called the Nasara, because they were the ones who had actually professed belief in Jesus. So in the first half of this surah, which is going to end today, hopefully, inshallah, we find that the charge sheet of the Christians, or the Nazarenes, as we can call them, was presented before them, and vitally they were told that that Jesus being the Son of God, and the beliefs that they have come to profess faith in, they are self-invented, they are self-actualized, nothing found in scriptures, not even in the Bible. The Bible, or the book, the Gospels actually, or the Injil, which was revealed to Jesus, does not in any way elevate him to the state of a deity. He was a messenger of God. Then we can see in the second half of this surah, Muslims, or the followers of Prophet Muhammad, as we can say, they are given this responsibility. They are told that now it is your time which is going to be called upon, you're being called upon to this duty of spreading religion. So once the Israelites have failed in their duty as a whole, now it is the Ishmaelites who will be given this chance. So in the next half of the surah, there is the verse which begins with kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat linnas, that you are the best people who have been taken out for people so that you are able to spread the message, is something that we find near the middle of the surah. And then we see some of the responsibilities that that they had to comply with are stated. And then we find the various trials and tribulations that they came across at the hands of the people of the book being also stated in the surah. And it is here that we now take up the last verses, the last 15 verses to be exact, in which this is discussed at how once they go about discharging their duty as the Ishmaelites, as the collective uh, receivers of this message from Prophet Muhammad, the brunt that they'll receive, the brunt of the adversity that they'll receive at the hands of the people of the book. So we start down from here, that basically the trials and tribulations they will face from the people of the book, they are now mentioned near the end of the surah. So the words are Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, لَتُبْلَوُنَّ فِي أَمْوَالِكُمْ وَأَنفُسِكُمْ وَلَتَسْمَعُنَّ مِنَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ وَمِنَ الَّذِينَ أَشْرَكُوا أَذًى كَثِيرًا وَإِن تَصْبِرُوا وَتَتَّقُوا فَإِنَّ ذَلِكَ مِنْ عَزْمِ الْأُمُورِ. Believers, you shall be tried in all circumstances regarding your possessions and your persons, and you will also have to hear many painful things from those who were given the book before you and from those who have committed polytheism. However, if you remained steadfast and adhere to piety, God will help you, because these are the things which have been regarded as essential for this. Inna fi zalika fa inna zalika min azbil umur. So you can clearly see, viewers, that this is a more comprehensive. It's like a very comprehensive statement given, that not only now we find that, of course, Surah Al Imran was revealed after Surah Baqarah, and it is like in the middle Medinan period that we can place this surah. And it was, and this time when we can find that Muslims were receiving their they were actually delivering their message, and people around them, they were receiving it, and Islam was spreading thick and fast. So it was this alliance between the people of the book, which are the Jews and the Christians, and with the polytheists, who remember they are in Mecca, and they were also on the lookout. They have been remain on the lookout to somehow harm religion. We know that the Prophet had migrated from Mecca to Medina, and but this did not mean that their enmity had ended. So he had just moved to Medina, and the Meccans knew, under the guidance of Abu Lahab and of course Abu Jahl, and we know that Abu Sufyan was also with them initially, but later he accepted faith. So in the guidance or in the leadership of these three very, very hefty personalities, they had attacked Medina at various instances: the Battle of Badr, the Battle of Uhud, the Battle of the Trench. All these battles we know that ensued as a result of this attack. And so this was alliance. There was an alliance that had formed between the people of the book and the polytheists. And exactly it is this alliance towards which this verse is pointing to, that once now the message of Islam is spreading, and once people know the truth, the more and more they'll accept it, and hence Muslims will be they will be tried and tested, and the people of the book will try their best to stake a claim once again to the leadership, and they try to bring down Islam as much as they want to, and would like to lead people astray as well. So this alliance between the polytheists and between the people of the book is what is being referred to here. But then they are given this very important guidance, that in tasbiru wa tattaqu, if you are steadfast and you are God conscious, you are pious, then fa inna zalika min azmil umur, that these are the things which have been regarded to be essential, which means as essential to combat all these trials and tribulations, these things that they will hear. And remember, the verse says that تُبْلَوُنَّ فِي أَمْوَالِكُمْ وَأَنفُسِكُمْ. You should be tried in all circumstances regarding your assets or your wealth and your persons. So yes, there will be a loss of assets, there will be a loss of your persons, which means a lot of people would be killed in this way. So this should not deter you from your path, and you have to remain steadfast, you have to remain attached to God, because this is what is essential to counter this onslaught. So, وَإِذْ أَخَذَ اللَّهُ مِيثَاقَ النَّبِيِّينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ لَتُبَيِّنُنَّهُ لِلنَّاسِ وَلَا تَكْتُمُونَهُ فَنَبَذَهُ وَرَاءَ ظُهُورِهِمْ وَاشْتَرَوْا بِهِ ثَمَنًا قَلِيلًا فَبِئْسَ مَا يَشْتَرُونَ. And to those who were given the book, remind them also of their pledge which God took from them. You shall necessarily recite out this book before people and shall not conceal it, come what may. Then they cast it over their backs and accepted a paltry price for it. So how evil is what they have brought, of what they have bought. So again, you can see that they are being told that as far as these prophets are concerned, they were told that the Misak or the covenant that they had made with God regarding the last prophet, they will explain it to people. They will, I mean, they will call it out towards people, and everyone will be told that this is what is the final message and how the final messenger will come, and then, of course, through this they will proceed and profess faith in him. So, and you have to explain these predictions and the arrival of the last prophet to your people. But what actually happened was that the verse says, فَنَبَذَهُ وَرَاءَ ظُهُورِهِمْ, and before that it says, وَلَا تَكْتُمُونَهُ, you will not hide this from people. But what actually happened was that they forgot this covenant, they forgot this promise, and they sold it for a paltry price, which of course is referring to the fact that their own arrogance and their own jealousy with the Ishmaelites, that why is it the last prophet is coming amongst them, it accounted for their deviation and for their haughtiness, and they actually then left what was to be received. The inheritors became the disinheritors. And the Quran says, فَبِئْسَ مَا يَشْتَرُونَ, so what a paltry price and that they have bought. What an evil thing is that they have bought. لا تحسبن الذين يفرحون بما آتوا ويحبون أن يحمدوا بما لم يفعلوا فلا تحسبنهم بمفازة من العذاب ولهم عذاب أليم. Never think that those who rejoice in their misdeeds and wish to be praised for what they have not done will escape the torment. In fact, a woeful punishment is ready for them. They cannot run away from it anywhere because God alone has sovereignty over the heavens and the earth, and God has power over all things. This actually is the next verse, which is وَلِلَّهِ مُلْكُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاللَّهُ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. So remember, Muslims are time and again they are warned, and they are told that people who think and rejoice in their misdeeds and they wish to be praised for something that they have never done. Of course, the references of the people of the book, they were told to adhere to the book. They were told to accept the book, disseminate it, and not hide it. But instead of doing so, instead of doing what they were directed, they did the exact opposite, and they still wanted to be called themselves the people of the book. So the Quran says, "Ma lam yafalu an yuhmadu bima lam yafalu." They still want to be praised for what they have not done. They were required to actually disseminate the book far and wide, of course, referring to the Torah, but they ended up doing the opposite. And they, in fact, wanted to be praised for this. وَيُحِبُّونَ أَن يُحْمَدُوا. They wanted to be praised for this, that they be called the people of the book. And the responsibilities which are imposed on people of the book, they were something that they totally shirked. So, فَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّهُمْ بِمَفَازَةٍ مِّنَ الْعَذَابِ. So it means that they will in no way be able to escape punishment, and for them will be a woeful torment. And remember, they have to face their reckoning before God. لِلَّهِ مُلْكُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. To him belongs the sovereignty, the kingdom of the heavens and the earth, and he has power over everything. They will not be in any position to escape from his grasp. They should remember that if this is something that's going to happen, then you are going to in fact be individuals who will be taken into account in a very very grave way. I would like to read out actually an excerpt from the book of Deuteronomy regarding this previous verse. Remember, our previous verse says, "Is akhazallahu misaq allazina utul kitab," that God actually took a covenant from the people of the book, and so the Quran says that remind them of this covenant. And that covenant is something which God took for them, that you shall necessarily recite out this book before people, recite out the Torah before the people. And if you look at the Torah, I'm going to just read out the Torah part of that from as an excerpt, and it says that fix these. This is the book of Deuteronomy. This is chapter number 11, verses 18 to 20. It says, "Fix these words of mine in your hearts and minds. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Teach them to your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates. So this is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 11 and verses 18 to 20, actually telling them that they have to spread far and wide the message that is being told. And in the Gospels, I mean, the book of Injil, which was revealed to Prophet Jesus, also we would find something very similar. So, for example, in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 10, verse 27, you'll see these words that what I tell you in the dark, speak in the daylight. What is whispered in your ear, proclaim it from the roofs. And a very, very powerful quotation from the Gospel of Matthew. So the people of the book, I mean, the Jews and the Christians, the Jews and the Nazarenes, both were required uh, to actually proclaim and announce this covenant that they had made regarding the last prophet and the fact that they would help him and they would do their needful. And it was something that was to be spread far and wide, but they ended up hiding it and they ended up not actually explaining it to their own masses. And as a result, of course, the Quran says that they were to be faced with eternal doom. So next we have inna fi khalqis samawati wal ardi wa ikhtilafil layli wan nahari la ayatin li ulil albab. This is now, we are now proceeding to the end of the surah, and this is like the concluding paragraph of the surah, in which once again believers are told that as far as this universe is concerned, as far as this world is concerned, it is something which should always be before you as a purposeful creation of God. It has not been created without the meaning, and that meaning, of course, and that purpose is that you will be held accountable for whatever privileges and whatever gifts and favors and blessings you enjoy. So now, as the surah draws to its close, once again, this reference has arisen in the surah near the end. So it says, "Inna fi khalqis samawati wal ardi wa ikhtilafil layli wan nahari la ayatin li ulil albab." These are very, very powerful words, and these last 10 verses of the surah have a very potent message to give, and the language that is employed is so beautiful, is so fluent, that it has a very deep impact on our hearts. So, الَّذِينَ يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ قِيَامًا وَقُعُودًا وَعَلَى جُنُوبِهِمْ وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا سُبْحَانَكَ فَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. So they are totally bereft of intellect, and that is why demand a sign to believe in the Prophet. Otherwise, in reality, in the creations of the heavens and the earth, and in the alternation of night and day, there are many signs of people of insight. For those who remember God in all states, whether standing, sitting, and lying down on their sides, and keep reflecting on the creation of the heavens and the earth, their prayer is, Lord, you have not created all this without a purpose. You are beyond doing anything which is purposeless. So save us from the torment of the fire. So again, they are being told that, remember, the people of the book repeatedly had asked for signs from the Almighty, that if they want themselves to believe, if what God wants them to believe in the last prophet and the last book, then they must be shown a sign, instead of having recourse to the predictions of the arrival of the last prophet, which were clearly stated in their own books. They altered them, and on the other hand, they said that they would need some miraculous sign to believe, if at all. And to this, the Quran says that they are asking for miracles, they are asking for these signs. They don't need any miracle or signs. The whole creation that is before them, the heavens and the earth, inna fi khalqis samawati wal ard. If they look about them, the way these heavens have been created, this alternation of day and night, it comes one after the other. This precision, the punctuality, the perfection that is found, you'll not see any fissure, you'll not see the slightest deviation from the timetable which is set for these things. So the Quran says that these are sufficient signs. A miracle is not something that they would ever need to have and ask. If they just look at the miracles, these small miracles, they are no less than miracles around them. And if they do so, then what they will get, what the ultimate conclusion that they will draw is that this world has not been created without a purpose. So the Quran says, الَّذِينَ يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ قِيَامًا وَقُعُودًا وَعَلَى جُنُوبِهِمْ, that these are people who, when reflect on this universe, they know that it has a creator. And while standing and while sitting, and in various situations, in various states, when they think what's going on around them, and on the creation of the heavens and the earth, they immediately say, Rabbana ma khalaqta haza batila. This could not have been created without a purpose. All this expansive universe, all this unfathomable universe with so many stars and galaxies and nebulas, and this cannot be without any purpose. So Rabbana ma khalaqta haza batila. God, you must not have created this without a purpose. And then it says, Subhanaka faqina azaban nar. It's like taking a jump and skipping the in-between premises. So the thing is that they immediately come to this conclusion that when the Almighty has not created these heavens and the earth without a purpose, then there must be a purpose, and that purpose is a day of accountability. So all this is suppressed here, it's not mentioned here. But the thing that is mentioned here is Rabbana ma khalaqta haza batila subhanaka faqina azaban nar. So God, glory be to you, please save us from the torment of the fire. So it is as if they when they look at these signs, they immediately come to the conclusion that this has not been created without any objective, and the objective is a day of accountability. And on that day of accountability, if you are not following what God has asked you to follow, then you are going to end up in severe torment, the hellfire. So all these in-between premises have been suppressed because they are automatically being understood. And immediately, the next thing that they say is that please save us from the torment of the fire. In other words, they know that this accountability is going to take place, and in this accountability, they will try their best to come forth with flying colors, to succeed in flying colors. But if this is going to happen, then they would need the help of God. So that help is like a prayer being offered before God. It's like a prayer being supplicated before God and being said that Faqina azaban nar, God, please save us from the torment of the fire. And it is just because of your blessings that this would happen. And then Rabbana innaka man tudkhilin nara faqad akhzayta. Lord, he whom you cast into hell, you in reality put him into great fire or great humiliation, and it is a place where the unjust shall have no helpers. وَمَا لِلظَّالِمِينَ مِنْ أَنصَارٍ. So the thing is that these people reach this conclusion that if they don't behave themselves, then this is going to happen. And then there is this acknowledgement, Rabbana innaka man tadkhilin nar. The people that will enter, who will be deserving to enter hell, are the ones who actually deserve, who are actually worthy of this because of their own deeds. And they will be severely humiliated. And then, وَمَا لِلظَّالِمِينَ مِنْ أَنصَارٍ. God, it is said, Lord, to whom you cast in hell, you shall in reality put him into great humiliation, and it is a place where the unjust shall have no helpers. I mean, people who enter hellfire, they will not be helped in any way. They will not have their intercessors as they thought. There will be no one to help them out from that place. And then they continue with their prayer. ربنا إننا سمعنا مناديا ينادي للإيمان أن آمنوا بربكم فآمنا ربنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار ربنا وآتنا ما بعدتنا على رسلك ولا تخزنا يوم القيامة إنك لا تخلف الميعاد. Lord, we have heard a caller who would call to faith. And what was that call? People, believe in your Lord. So we believed. Then, Master, forgive now our sins, avert from us our evil deeds, and make us die with your faithful. Lord, fulfill to us what you promised us through the tongues of your prophet, and do not humiliate us on the day of judgment. Indeed, you never break your promise. So this prayer, this supplication, this invocation is continuing, and it is as if the believers are telling and asking the Almighty for their help. And if you compare this to the last part of Surah Baqarah, there is a very uncanny similarity between the two. The last verses of Surah Baqarah also ended in prayer. They also have a very heavy supplication attached near the end, in which the words are Rabbana la tu'akhizna in nasina aw akhta'na, that God, do not charge us, do not call us to account for what we have done, for what we have left out in our own capacity. Don't If we have missed out something, if we have not been able to do something, if we have committed a mistake, please have mercy on us. So you'll find a very, very deep similarity between the endings of the two surahs also, and that is why, as we have already discussed, the Surah Al Imran and Surah Baqarah, they are like two pairs, they are like counterparts to one another. So you can see this similarity in the closing verses also, that it is expressed that God, please forgive us, Rabbana faghfir lana. So there it was, Rabbana la tu'akhizna in nasina aw akhtana. So the words of Surah Baqarah was that, please do not hold us accountable for what we were not able to do in nasina aw akhtana, for what we forgot and what we actually did, but it was a mistake. So here it is said, Rabbana faghfir lana zunubana. God, please forgive us our sins. Wa kaffir anna sayyi'atina. And at the same time, avert from us our evil deeds. وَتَوَفَّنَا مَعَ الْأَبْرَارِ, and make us die with the faithful, which means that give us a death which is based on faith. And then there is this beautiful futuristic statement that is being made, رَبَّنَا وَآتِنَا مَا وَعَدتَّنَا عَلَى رُسُلِكَ, that on the day of judgment, O God, you had promised us that you will give us this paradise, you'll give us eternal blessings. So please grant us this, because this is what you had promised from the tongues of your prophet. And do not humiliate us on the day of judgment, because we have followed your directives, and we know that you will do not do so, because innaka la tukhliful mi'ad, you are one who does not go back on his words. فاستجاب لهم ربهم أني لا أضيع عمل عامل منكم من ذكر أو أنثى بعضكم من بعض فالذين هاجروا وأخرجوا من ديارهم وأوذوا في سبيلي وقاتلوا وقتلوا لأكفرن عنهم سيئاتهم ولأدخلنهم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار ثوابا من عند الله والله عنده حسن الثواب. So their Lord answered this prayer of theirs in this manner: I shall not waste the deeds of any man or woman among you. You are the offspring of one another. Thus, those who have migrated and have been expelled from their homes and have suffered persecution for my sake and fought for my cause and were slain, I shall drive away their sins from them and definitely admit them to orchards below which streams flow. This is their recompense from God, and the best recompense is with God alone. So now, once again, the Almighty telling us that as soon as this prayer was uttered by them, it was immediately accepted. Remember, the Sahaba, or the companions, the way they had sacrificed their lives, the way they had shown sincerity with the Prophet and had been loyal and faithful to the message of God. So God says, as soon as this prayer was uttered from their mouths, it came out of their mouths, فَاسْتَجَابَ لَهُمْ رَبُّهُم. Immediately God accepted it, and He said that He'll not waste the reward of any person, whether he's a man or a woman, doing away once and for all with this notion that men and women in any way have this disparity amongst them. And remember, in those times, women were regarded to be inferior. So God has specially mentioned women here to make it clear that whether it's a man or a woman, as long as he does righteous deeds, that is something that is going to actually elevate or not elevate that person. It's not that women are condemned forever, or women are creatures to be looked down upon, as were the pagan concepts about them. So God says, Ba'dukum min ba'd, you are from one another as long as you help the messenger. Remember, you migrated from Mecca, and some of you were expelled from there, and uh, you were actually given a lot of botherations, and you had to pass through a lot of trials, and you were killed in this way as well. So for such people, God says, I am going to be merciful to them, and I am going to reward them. Sawaba min indillah, it's like a reward from them, and the best reward is with God. And then a further note of assurance is sounded: لا يغرنك تقلب الذين كفروا في البلاد متاع قليل ثم مأواهم جهنم وبئس المهاد لكن الذين اتقوا ربهم لهم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها نزل من عند الله وما عند الله خير للأبرار. Do not, O Prophet, be deceived by the fortunes of these disbelievers in the cities of this land. This is brief prosperity. Then hell shall be their abode, and what an evil abode it is. On the other hand, those who continued to fear their Lord, for them are orchards below which streams flow. They shall abide in them forever. For them is the first feast with God, and whatever God has with Him is much better for those faithful to Him. So once again, remember, This was the time when believers were actually having a lot of trials and tribulation. They were passing through these testing times, and at the same time, they could see, especially the masses, that the disbelievers, they were very well placed in their society. They were highly placed. They were full of, I mean, they had a lot of wealth and riches and treasures with them. And the way they would talk to these believers would be, they would look down upon them, they would show arrogance, and they would often make fun of them, that these are people who are totally, they're like paupers, they're like poor people who are following the prophet. So the prophet is, by addressing the prophet, actually these masses are assured. So remember, when something is addressed to the prophet, on many occasions or on some specific occasions, the direction of address is towards other people. So although the prophet is being addressed, but you can clearly see that the prophet is being merely used as an addressee, because he is the leader of his nation. He's like the advocate of his nation, and through him, the rest of the people who were overawed by this glittering and this glaring, the way they would spend their lives and how they would glitter and glamour, the glamour that would be around them. It should not be something that should deceive them, that these are people who are successful. So God says this is brief prosperity. Mata'un kalil summa ma'wahum jahannam. If they are boasting about with their wealth and luxuries, this is just going to end. It's like a transient and it's a passing thing. However, lakin lazina taqaw rabbahum lahum jannatun tajri min tahtiha al-anhar. On the other hand, those who continue to fear their Lord, for them are orchards below which streams flow. They shall abide in them forever. This for them is the first feast. And of course, if this is the first feast, you can well imagine what God has in store for them. And then once again, remember, because the surah is specifically relating to the people of the book, in particular the Nazarenes or the Christians, on occasions, just as the Almighty has shown his anger on their misdoings, he has also praised many of the people of the book, because they were the ones who were true and sincere. When the last prophet came, they actually professed faith in him. And not only did they believe in their own book, but also in the book that was revealed to the last prophet, which was the Quran. So this now, surah is drawing to a close with this note of praise, and it's like a laudatory note for the people of the book who were righteous and who stood by their promise. So, وَإِنَّ مِنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ لَمَنْ يُؤْمِنُ بِاللَّهِ وَمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكُمْ وَمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْهِمْ خَاشِعِينَ لِلَّهِ لَا يَشْتَرُونَ بِآيَاتِ اللَّهِ ثَمَنًا قَلِيلًا أُولَٰئِكَ لَهُمْ أَجْرُهُمْ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ سَرِيعُ الْحِسَابِ. There do exist such faithful people even among the people of the book. In reality, among these people of the book are those who also truly believe in God, in the book which has been revealed to you, O Prophet, of course, and also in what had been revealed to them earlier, while fearing God. They do not sell God's revelations for a paltry price. They are the people whose reward lies with their Lord. Soon it will be given to them, because swift is God's reckoning. So remember, it is like telling them that, remember, Muslims or believers of Prophet Muhammad, it's not that all these people of the book are alike. It's not that all of them are disbelieving in the last prophet. Even among these people, there are those who are, I mean, it says, who believe in what was revealed to them and what was revealed to Prophet. وَمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكُمْ. And then it says, خَاشِعِينَ لِلَّهِ, while fearing God. They know that this is something that they are doing in deference to the will of God. And then, of course, they don't sell their promise for a paltry price, referring to the fact that for a paltry gain, they do not go back on their words. So God says, "Ulaika lahum ajruhum inda rabbihim, inna Allaha sariyul hisab." For them, there is a tremendous reward, and this is going to be given to them very soon, because God is swift in reckoning. So don't think that this is something that is deferred. It's going to be something which is going to be with them very soon, because God is extremely swift in taking his account. And then once again, in the last verse of this surah, the address returns to the believers, and they are told, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu isbiru wasabiru warabitu wattaqullaha la'allakum tuflihun. Believers, the final victory shall be yours. However, for this it is essential that you exercise patience, show valor against your opponents, be prepared for a battle, and in all affairs be God conscious, so that you may succeed. So, once the praise regarding the people of the book had ended by telling Muslims and the believers that they must not equate all the believers, you would recall that even in while we're studying somewhere down in the middle part of the surah, this praise was already mentioned earlier on as well, in which it was told that they are people who would stand by night, and they were people who are waiting for the last prophet, and they actually leapt to have to believe in him, and they fastabiqul khairat, and they were the ones who would actually, and words to this effect were that they would outdo each other in this way, that they would try to become better believers than others. So now, once that had happened, the last verse once again addresses the believers and say that ultimately, I mean, today these disbelievers might be seen as a very, very big enemy and a very threatening enemy, and you might think that they might overpower you and overawe you. But remember, this is not going to happen. At the end, you are going to remain victorious, because you are people who have professed faith in the prophets of God, and you are ones who have wholeheartedly accepted the message of God. On the other hand, these are the people who have deliberately denied, and the punishment of deliberate denial in the lifetime of God's messengers is that they stand humiliated. And this is what it's going to happen. But for that, you have to remain steadfast. You have to show valor against your enemy. And finally, wattaqullah, be conscious of God, fear God, which means that always abide by his rules, by his directives, so that you may succeed. So, viewers, with this, we also come to the end of this surah, and I would like to also finish off the literal translation today. But in the meantime, before I do that, let's take a break for a small Q&A for what we have just discussed.
Dear all, thank you so much. Dr. Saleem, thank you so much. We've ended the surah today. It was absolutely brilliant. So glad to be back. Anybody with any questions? Yes, I see Shazia has a raised hand. Shazia, please unmute your mic and ask your question. Thank you.
Ji, Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Saab. I have a question about the word khasheena lillahi, because you translated it as in the fearing, while fearing Allah. So what is the difference between khushu and khashi? Like khashin ya, khashiyatillah?
So, you're talking about the last verse? Khasheena lillah?
Second last, khasheena. So it's usually, when we translate it,
Yeah.
we translate it again as fear of Allah.
So,
And then there is
so basi-
khashiyatillah, which is also fear of Allah. So what is
so
the...
that's a different word. So
Yeah,
khashya
it is a different word, but how are
Yeah,
they?
and khushu.
How are they?
So
Yeah, the
khushu
fear different.
basically means to be someone who is who bends before God, who obeys and is not defiant. And because of this, because the reason for this defiance, the reason for this obedience before God is that you fear God's authority. So at times, this defiance or lack of defiance is also translated in its consequence, that this obedience, this bending before God, is because you fear God, is because you're conscious of God, and because you would not like to anger Him. So at times the word khashi'ina lillah also translates into this fear. It's not just being bending before God or showing obedience to Him. So this is found within the meaning of the word, the word khushu. So the word khushu means to submit, to have that overwhelming feeling that you are being watched by God and you are God conscious, and at the same time you have that fear of losing Him, that you should not lose Him. So that is also implied in the word khushu. So it's the context that makes that final decision, whether it's used in the meaning. For example, when you say that there are people who have a deep concentration in the prayer, for that also you use the word khushu. So that concentration actually is derived from the fact that you are God conscious, that you are aware that you're standing before God. So the essence of the word has both these implications. It is the context which makes the final decision. Here, khashi'ina lillah does not mean that they are ones who are, the way that we would use it for a ritual or a prayer. It actually refers to our attitude towards God. And as far as the
Obedience,
word
more like
khashya,
obedience.
yeah, it's more like obedience. I mean, you're like, you'd be conscious of the fact that you would not like to disobey Him. So it's like fearing God. When you translate this, is in this expression, you are actually trying to say this fact that your obedience is because you're God conscious. So the reason has been preposed with the cause. It's like saying that the reason that has made me fear God is because I'm God conscious. I would not like to lose His love. So that is what is being stated here.
So it has both the meaning of the fear and the love and the obedience,
Yeah,
because of
it
the
depends.
fear of His. So
Because you
it's
see that this
bigger than
fear
the
is
khashya.
something. Yeah, this fear is something which always is a consequence of losing something. Consequence of losing his attention. Consequence of losing his focus. So it's like being said that you will be deprived of God's graciousness. So it's not that God is something to be feared because he is someone who's, someone that you should fear per se. It is because that you would lose his graciousness, you would lose his attention and focus, that it is said that you should fear losing his consciousness, losing his focus regarding yourselves. But the word khashya, which actually has kha, sheen, and ya, is a different word entirely, and that is an entirely different word. So we're talking about khushu here.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Jazakallah. That was a beautiful word. Thank you.
Dr. Saleem, I don't see any raised hands, but I have a question. I don't know if it's a question that, I can even ask or if it makes sense. So, after having finished both the surahs with you, it almost seems to me that God's anger with the Jews is more. Surah Baqarah seems to be a little, kind of the language and the way we understand the translation. Is that correct? God's anger seems to be more with them than with Christians, or am I just imagining that?
Yes, I think that is quite the conclusion that I would also draw. This is because, you see, about them, it is the Almighty says that they returned with the wrath of God, as you can see from Surah Baqarah, فَبَاءُوا بِغَضَبٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ, that they are the ones who are the recipients of the last message. They were the ones, the last message before Prophet Muhammad, and they were the ones who should have been the first ones, to welcome the last prophet, because remember, he was there as a result of the predictions that are found in their own scriptures. So not only did they not do that, they also ended up denying Jesus and Muhammad, both of them. And so the wrath of God is like that double sword that they faced, that first they denied Jesus and then they ended up denying Prophet Muhammad. And not only doing that, but leading other people astray as well. On the other hand, the crime or the mistake, I would say, or the shortcoming or the offenses which have been created, which were actually perpetrated by the Christians or the Nazarenes, were of a different sort. So they had gone astray, and as we will study in some of the later surahs, they exaggerated in religion, exaggerated the status of people in religion, and that is why in Surah Hadid they are called La taghlu fi dinikum. Do not exaggerate in your religion, and you exaggerate it by making Jesus to be God. You exaggerate it by inventing a whole system of monasticism in which celibacy and all things which were beyond normal, which was actually, something which were abnormal, were introduced in your beliefs. So the nature of their mistakes, the nature of their shortcomings was of this sort, that they exaggerated in the directives of their religion, elevated people to status that they'd never had. But that is a different sort of a blemish. The blemish that was committed by the Jews was much graver, that they were waiting. And it's not that the Christians were also not waiting, they were also waiting. But the Jews were actually responsible for this fact, because they were given this responsibility as the Banu Israel. They were the Banu Abraham. They were the progeny of Abraham. For 2,000 years, they had prophets coming into them. And they were the ones who actually ended up plotting the death of Jesus, who was the last Jew, the last Jewish prophet. So the crimes that they committed over a period of these 2,000 years were much graver than the ones the Christians did. Obviously, they had their own stance in these crimes, but yes, the wrath of God and the anger of God seems to be burning more against the Jews, especially.
So another question I had. So, Dr. Saleem, so are we to assume, and if I don't know if assume is the right word, obviously God knows, has knowledge of everything. So God knew that 2,000 years after the Jews came, there would be another nation called the Muslims. But of course, people didn't know that. So are we to think that had that not, the Jews would have definitely still made that choice, because this was preordained that a new nation would come if the Jews did not listen, because God already knew
actually,
that, right?
you see, God knew that the new nation would come, and the scheme of God was that when that new prophet comes, all these Jews and Christians should actually profess belief in them. The scheme was that the last prophet would come, and a covenant was taken from them. So it's not an ordinary thing. They were actually told that the last prophet is mentioned by name in their scriptures, and a promise was taken from them by God, that when the last prophet comes, you will help them, you will help him, you will support him and profess faith in him and spread his message. So this is something that they very well knew. It's not that they did not know. So this is something that makes the whole issue much grave.
Okay, but of course God already knew that they wouldn't do that, because God knows everything.
That is like precise the point. People chose out of their own free will not to believe in the last prophet. So the choice that they would ultimately make is in God's knowledge, but it's not that God is driving them to make that choice.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much. We have two more hands. Mars, please unmute your mic and ask your question. And please, everyone, make sure that the house rules are that we pertain to Surah Al Imran right now. Thank you.
Doctor, can you differentiate between zunubana and sayyiat? And secondly, if it's a small sin, but we do it consistently, does it make it a bigger one?
Well, in most instances in the Quran, the word zanb and the word sayyah, they are used synonymously for sins. But when they occur together, the way you might be referring to Rabbana ighfir lana zunubana wa kaffir anna sayyiatina. So this distinction can be made that the evil deeds that we do. So kaffir anna sayyiatina is referring to those small evil deeds that we do. And the zunubana are also the same. I mean, it's not that there is much distinction, or you should say that zunub actually refers to the larger sins or bigger sins, because of course these bigger sins, they come with their own baggage, they have their own rules for their forgiveness. So I think if you look at this verse, it does say that Rabbana ighfir lana zunubana wa kaffir anna, and forgive us our sins and drive us away the evil consequences of these sins. Kaffir anna sayyiatina. So remove these evil deeds from our accounts. So I think both of these words are actually referring to minor sins, and they're not talking about major sins, because these are the sins that would be forgiven according to the law of God. But as far as the grave sins are concerned, which the Quran calls as the major sins, like polytheism, like adultery, like murder, I mean, they are a separate category. So zamb, when used in this sense, I would say it's used synonymously. And the part of your question, of course, is also, as I said, I have answered it by saying that stands as a separate category.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saleem. I see no more raised hands right now. So if you want to continue with the session.
Okay, so now I'm going to just once again start off with the literal and idiomatic translation. Once again, with this reminder that remember that this literal and idiomatic translation is done so that you come closer to the text of the Quran, and as close as possible by actually having a literal understanding of the words and noting down some of these words, because these words, they get repeated time and again, and if you are able to note them down, they change their form and structure. This is a very common Arabic way, a way of Arabic in which the form and structure changes, you'll find, but the same letters appear. And if you keep on jotting these down without even knowing Arabic, this is something that you will be, if you do that, you'll find yourself being able to translate the Quran without knowing Arabic. And I think I did point this out earlier on, that this is what Shah Waliullah in his own times and the family of Shah Waliullah did practice about 250 years ago, that by introducing this literal and idiomatic translation before individuals who are not in a position or maybe don't have the time to know Arabic, then through this literal and idiomatic translation, you still are able to come closer to the text and make sense out of it. So that is why I find it to be very useful, especially if students who are here do note these down and then are able to revise them as well. So if you are able to do that, you'll find this literal and idiomatic translation coming to your help when you are reading the Quran, by making you directly understanding the text of the Quran. So لَتُبْلَوُنَّ فِي أَمْوَالِكُمْ وَأَنفُسِكُمْ. You shall be tried in all circumstances. So la is here for emphasis. This is it often occurs. So tublavunna actually means definitely you shall be tried. Fi amwalikum, fi regarding, amwalikum your wealth. So amwal is the plural of mal. Amwal is mal is actually singular and amwal is plural. So you shall definitely be tried regarding your wealth. Wa and anfusikum, your persons. So anfus is the plural of nafs and kum is your. So you shall definitely be tried regarding your wealth and regarding your persons. Wa and latasma'unna, you shall definitely hear. So if you look at this construction, vunna and unna near at the end, so tatublavunna and latasma'unna. When you find this the noon here with a double emphasis with the shad, it does add stress, and this stress, of course, is shown by the translation that in all circumstances you shall be tried, and in all circumstances you'll hear. And what shall you hear? Min allazina utul kitab, from Min is from. Allazina, those who. Utul kitab, were given the book. Min qablikum, before you. So you shall definitely hear things. You shall definitely be put into trial regarding your life and regarding your wealth, and you shall definitely hear things from people, allazina utul kitab, who were given the book before you, min qablikum, wa min allazina ashraku kasira, wa and min from allazina, those who ashraku, who indulge in polytheism, aza, so aza means harm, kasira, a lot. So you will hear a lot of harmful and painful things from the people of the book and from those who indulged in polytheism, who committed polytheism, ashraku. Wa in tasbiru, wa and in is if. Tasbiru, you are steadfast. Wa and tattaqu, you are pious. Fa, therefore, inna, indeed, zalika, these, min, from among, azmil umur, that are essential matters. So if you are steadfast and if you are God conscious, if you're pious, then these are the things which have been regarded as essential. For what? In order to combat that trial that they are facing through these painful words and these deeds from the people of the book and from the polytheists. And then wa is akhazallahu misaqan nabiyyin, wa and is when akhaza took, Allah, God, and when God took misaq, covenant, and when God took this covenant, allazina utul kitab, and to those who were given the book, وَإِذْ أَخَذَ اللَّهُ مِيثَاقَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ, and what is that? لَتُبَيِّنُنَّهُ, that you shall definitely recite out this book. Utul kitab latubayyinunnahu linnas, for people, wa and la, not, taktumunahu, hide it. So what is being said to that? Is akhazallahu misakan nabiyyin, and to those who were given the book, remind them also of their pledge. It's like saying that remember that God took a covenant, and that covenant is something that they need to be reminded of. And who were these people? Utul kitab. They were the ones who were given the book. And what were they required to do? لَتُبَيِّنُنَّهُ لِلنَّاسِ. Tabayyana actually means to explain something and to deliver something. Linnas, for people. Wa and la, not. Taktumunahu, you shall not hide it, you shall not conceal it. Fa nabazahu, then what happened? Fa, therefore, nabazahu means they threw it. Wara is means behind. Zuhurihim, their backs. So instead of explaining it to people and not hiding them, they threw it behind their backs, which means that they actually overlooked the promise that they had actually made. And washtarau bihi samanan kalila, wa and ishtarau. Ishtarau means they actually accepted bihi, for it, samanan means price, kalila, a very paltry price. So which means that they, instead of delivering the book or the contents of the book and not hiding them, they ended up ignoring that book. Because when you throw something behind your back, it actually means that you ignored the instructions of the book, and hence they whatever they did ended up as if they accepted a paltry price for doing this, which means that for their own personal interests and for their own personal gains, which were very few, which were very paltry, they ended up satisfying those paltry interests, and they ended up giving a huge thing that was meant for them. فَبِئْسَمَا يَشْتَرُونَ. فَبِئْسَمَا, therefore, what an evil. مَا يَشْتَرُونَ, thing that they have bought. Of course, here it's because of the fact that when you give preference to something, it is as if you are buying that thing. So in the Arabic language, the ishtara yashtari, this word is also used to give preference to something. And because when you buy something, you are giving preference to it, and that is why this word is also used for buying and selling. But here, of course, it means to give preference to something. La tahsabanna allazina yafrahuna. La, not. Tahsabanna, do not think. Allazina, those who. Yafrahuna, who are happy. Bima, with. Ataw, what they have been given. Bima ataw, or in fact what they have done. Bima ataw, what they have brought forth, which actually is referring to their bad deeds or their misdeeds. So, la tahsabanna lazina yafrahuna bima ataw. So, do not ever imagine that people who are happy at their misdeeds, wa and yuhibbuna, who like, what do they like? An yuhmadu, that they be praised. An, that, yuhmadu, they be praised. Bima, for, lam, not, yafalu, they did. So they like to be praised for what they did not do. Bima lam yafalu. So never think that those who rejoice in their misdeeds, those who are happy with their misdeeds, and they also wish that they be praised for what they have not done. What should you should imagine? La tahsabannahum bimafazati min azab. Do not think that they are going to escape punishment. So bimafaza means that they will be absolved, they will escape min from al azab, the torment. Wa and lahum, la is for, whom is them. Walahum, and for them, azab, torment, alim, grave, and for them is a grievous or a grievous torment. Walillahi mulku samawati wal ard. Wa and lillah, for God, mulku samawati wal ard, the kingdom of the heavens and the earth, the sovereignty of the heavens and the earth. Mulk is kingdom, as samawat is heavens, of course. Samawat is the plural of sama, the heavens, wa and earth. Wa and Allah, God, Allah, on, kulli, everything, every, sorry, not everything, every. Shay'in is thing, Qadir, powerful. And God on everything powerful is the literal meaning. And idiomatically it would be, and God has power over all things. So don't think that you'll escape accountability. Inna fi khalqis samawati wal ard. Inna, indeed, fi, in, khalq, creation, as-samawat, of the heavens, wa, and al-ard, of the earth. So indeed, in the creation of the heavens and the earth, wa, and ikhtilaf. So ikhtilaf means coming and going or alternation. Al-layl, night, wa, and an-nahar, day. So in the coming and going of the night and day, in the alternation of the night and day, la ayat, definitely there are signs. So ayat is the plural of ayah. So la is like is there for emphasis. Definitely there are signs. Le, for ulil albab, men of understanding, men of intellect, or people of intellect. So idiomatically it would mean that indeed in the creation of the heavens and the earth, and in the coming and going of night and day, there are signs for whom? For people of intellect, ulil albab. Allazina, those who, yazkuruna, remember, Allah, God, qiyamam, while standing, wa, and qu'udum, while sitting, wa, and ala junubihim, and on their sides. So, allazina yazkuruna Allah qiyamam wa qu'udum ala junubihim would mean those who remember God, allazina yazkuruna Allah, while they are standing, and while they are sitting, and while they are lying on their sides. So Allah, so junub is basically side or your back, and it is a plural of jamb. So jamb is basically back, and junub is the plural, which means back. So they when they're lying on their backs, which means that in all situations they are those who remember God, who actually recount God. And what do? Yatafakkaruna, they think, they deliberate, they reflect. Yatafakkaruna, they reflect, they deliberate. Fi, in, khalq, creation, as-samawat, of the heavens, wa, and al-ard, of the earth. And they deliberate in the creation of the heavens and the earth. And then Rabbana, O Lord ours, ma, not, khalaqta, you have created, haza, all this system, batila, without any purpose. So, O Lord, you have not created, Rabbana ma khalaqta haza. So literally it would be, our Lord, not you have created this without purpose. And idiomatically it would be, God or Lord, you have not created this universe, this world, without any purpose. Subhanaka, glory be to you. Faqina, fa is therefore qina, save us. Glory be to you, therefore save us. Azaban nar, from the torment of the fire. Azaban nar, the torment of the fire. So therefore save us from the torment of the fire. And then the prayer continues, Rabbana, our Lord, innaka, indeed you, man, who, tudkhilin nara, you admitted into hell, into the fire. faqad, therefore indeed, akhzaytahu, you humiliated him, that person. So, O Lord, indeed, the person that you admitted into hell is the one whom you humiliated. You see, Rabbana, O Lord, innaka, indeed you, man tudkhilin nara, the one you admitted into hell, you actually humiliated that person, which means it was of severe ignominy and they would suffer this ignominy. Wa and ma not. Liz zalimina, for the wrongdoers. Liz zalimina, for the wrongdoers. Min, from among Ansar helpers. So literally it would mean and not for the wrongdoers any helpers. And idiomatically it would be and for the wrongdoers there are no helpers. And for the wrongdoers there are no helpers. Rabbana, God, O Lord, O our God, innana, indeed we, sami'na, we heard, munadiyin. So munadi means someone who calls, someone who beckons. Yunadi, who called, who calls lil iman, towards faith. Lil iman, lay is towards, iman is faith. So God, indeed we heard a caller calling to faith. And what was that? An aminu, that believe. Aminu, believe. It's like an order. Believe. Birabbikum, in your Lord. Fa'amanna. So therefore we believed. So basically what is being said is that God, we heard someone calling towards you. And what did he say? Aminu birabbikum. Profess faith in your Lord. And when he said this, fa'amanna, we professed faith. We said, yes, okay, whatever you are calling us towards, we accept that. And then Rabbana, our Lord, faghfir lana. Faghfir is basically forgive us. Lana, for us. Forgive for us. Zunubana, our sins. Wa, and kaffir, anna. So kaffir anna here actually means that drive these sins away from us. Kaffir means drive. Anna, from us. Sayyiatina, our sins. So sayyiat is basically a plural of sayyi'ah, and sayyiatina would mean our sins. So forgive our sins, forgive our evil deeds, and drive away from us our sins. So basically, it's a synonymous expression having the same meaning with different words. Wa, and tawaffana, give us death. Ma, with al abrar, the faithful. So give us death with the faithful actually would mean that make us die as faithful people. Make us die as people. When we die, we should be faithful to you and not unfaithful. And then Rabbana, Lord, wa, and atina, give us, ma, what, wa'attana, you promised. Give us what you promised, or fulfill your promise. Ala rusulika, what you promised through the tongues of your messengers. So ala alsinati rasulika. So the word alsina or tongues here can be understood to be suppressed. So it actually means that God, what you had promised through the tongues of your prophet, please give us that. Please fulfill that promise. Of course, that is that if we are obedient to you, then God, you will be blessing us with paradise. And then the negative part of it also is mentioned, wa, and la, not. Tukhsina, humiliate us. Yawm al-Qiyamah, on the day of judgment. And do not humiliate us on the day of judgment. Innaka, indeed you. Inna, indeed. Ka, you. Indeed you. La, not. Tukhlifu, goes back. Al-mi'ad, on promise. Indeed you not go. Indeed you not go back on promise. That is literally what it means. But idiomatically it would be, indeed you do not go back on your promise. Indeed you do not break your promise. Fastajaba lahum. So fa is therefore, istajaba means responded. Lahum, to them. Rabbuhum, their Lord. Therefore their Lord responded to them. And what did he say? Anni, I. La, not. Udhi'u, waste. Amala, the deeds. Amilim, the one who does. Minkum, from you. Min, from among. Zakar, male. Au, or. Untha, female. So, fastajaba lahum rabbuhum would mean their Lord responded to them. Fastajaba, fa, therefore, istajaba means responded or answered. Lahum, to them. Rabbuhum, their Lord. And how did he respond to them? He said, La udhi'u, I will not waste the deed of a doer, the deed of a doer from among you, minkum, from among you, whether he is a male or a female. min zakrin aw unsa, from among your males and from among your females. So that is literally the meaning. But idiomatically, of course, it would mean whether these deeds are committed by men or women, I shall not waste them. And obviously, the context here is referring to good deeds, although the word good is not mentioned, but it is implied here that I will not waste the good deeds of men and women, of course, referring to the fact that they shall be fully rewarded and compensated. Ba'dukum mim ba'd. Ba'dukum, uh, you are, I mean, ba'dukum would mean from one another, mim from, ba'd another. So ba'dukum, some of you from some. Literally, it would mean some of you from some. Ba'dukum, some of you, min from some is ba'd. Some of you from some is literally the meaning, but the idiomatic meaning would mean that you are from one another. You are from the progeny or the offspring of one another. Fallazina, fa, therefore. Allazina, those who. Hajaru, migrated. Va, and. Ukhriju, they were expelled. Min, from. Diyarihim, their land or their country. So, therefore, those who migrated and those who were expelled from their land, wa, and uzu. Uzu mean they were harmed. They were persecuted. Fi sabili, for my cause. This is, remember, God is speaking these words directly to them. Who suffered for my cause. Waqatalu, and they fought. And they fought. Waqutilu, and as a result they were killed. They fought and they were killed. La, therefore, ukaffir anna, I shall compensate or drive away anhum, from them, sayyi'atihim, their sins. It's something that we've already discussed earlier on. So primarily God says that those who have migrated and those who have been expelled from their land and those who have suffered in my cause and those who fought and were killed, God says, I will compensate them for their evil, or in other words, I will drive away from them their evil deeds, which means that they will be deleted from their account. Va, and la, therefore, udkhilannahum, I shall definitely make them enter, or I shall admit them into jannat. So jannat is basically orchards or gardens. Tajri min, below which, or tajri min actually means flows. Tahtiha, beneath them. Al anhar, streams. So anhar is the plural of nahar, and is the plural of the words nahar, which is a singular. So basically, jannatin tajri means orchards, flows below which streams. This is the literal meaning, and idiomatically it would mean orchards below which streams flow, orchards below which canals flow. And I've already explained this earlier on that it does not mean that heaven has underground streams. It only means that it will be at a high place and the water would be surrounding that place in the form of a valley where it will be filled, and therefore this the destruction that can be caused because of floods would not be able to affect them because they would be at a high ground. So this is the view of paradise that is often presented in the Quran, that it would be on a place that would be on a high ground, and on the lower part of that ground or something which is around them in the valley, the water will flow and will not in any way be able to damage the crops or the contents of the garden. Sawabam min indillah. Sawaban is, of course, the word sawab means reward. Min, from, indillah, God. So sawabam min indillah means this is their reward from God. Wa, and Allah, God. Indahu, with him. Husnus sawab, the best reward. And indeed with God is the best reward. La, not. Yahurrannaka, deceive you. Takallub means to come and go, or you can say the glamour. Should not deceive you the glamour. La yahurrannaka takallub would mean that their glamour or profit should not deceive. Who should not deceive? Allazina kafaru, who have disbelieved. So the people who have disbelieved, their glamour should not deceive you. Fil bilad, in their land. So when they walk about in a very arrogant way, and they walk about in a very glamorous way, this should not deceive you. And what does this mean? It actually means that it is not that God is happy with them and that is why they are walking about with such grace and grandeur. No. Mata'un kaleel. Mata means prosperity. Kaleel, brief. Something which is very brief. So it is a very brief prosperity. Let not their glamour deceive you, because this is something very temporary, very transient. Summa, then, ma'wahum, their abode, Jahannam is hell. Then their abode is hell. This is just brief uh, prosperity, brief comforts and luxuries that are enjoying. Ultimately, they'll be consigned to hell. Wa and bi'sa, evil, mihad, a place or abode. So, what an evil abode that hell would be. Lakin, but, allazina, those who, ittaqaw, rabbahum. Ittaqaw means feared, rabbahum, their Lord. But those who fear their Lord, lahum, for them, jannat, orchards, tajrimin, flow, tahtiha, below them, al-anhar, canals or fountains or streams. This sentence has already just passed in the previous verse. So, but those who have feared their Lord, and who so those who have feared their Lord, for them are gardens or orchards below which streams will flow. Tahtiha, below, ha, them, al anhar, nahar, or fountains or streams or canals. Khalidina fiha. Khalidina means forever. Fiha, in it. So they will remain in it forever. Nuzulan. So Nuzulan in Arabic means the first feast or the first host, the first thing that you'll get from the host. So that is what Quran says, that these orchards will be their first feast. Min indillah, from God. Min, from indillah, the presence of God. Basically, it's from God. Wa, and ma, that. Indallah, with God. Khair is better. So literally it would be and that with God better. And idiomatically it would be and that which is with God is better. Wama indallah is better. And what is this better? Lil abrar, for the faithful. For the faithful, for the sincere. So what is with God is better for the sincere. Wa, and inna, indeed. Min ahlil kitab, from among the people of the book. Laman, those who yu'minu, profess faith, billah, in God. Wa, and ma, that unzila, was revealed, ilaykum, towards you. Wa, and ma, that unzila, was revealed, ilayhim, towards them. So towards you and towards them. Khashi'ina lillah, while fearing God. While fearing God. La, not. Yashtaruna, they sell. Bi ayatillahi, the verses of God. Samanan qalila, with a paltry price or a trivial price. So basically, once again, these people of the book are praised that amongst these people of the books are those, who believe in God and that which was revealed to you and that which was revealed to them. So what was revealed to you is the Quran, and what was revealed to them is the Torah. Khashi'in lillah, while fearing God. So they believe in both books of God. La yashtaruna bi ayatillah, they do not in any way sell the verses of God, the signs of God, for any paltry price. Ulaika, it is they, lahum, for them, ajruhum, their reward, in the law, in the Rabbihim, with their Lord. So it is they whose reward is with their Lord. Inna, indeed, Allah, God, sari, fast or swift, al hisab, reckoning. So literally it would mean, indeed, God, swift account. I mean, that is what is literally the meaning. But of course, idiomatically, it would mean that God is swift in taking account. God is swift in settling account. That is what is meant here. And then the last verse, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu, O you who believe. Na amanusbiru. So show patience, be steadfast. Wa, and sabiru. So sabiru means show bravery against your opponents, against your enemies. Warabitu. So rabitu means be prepared against your enemy. So all those who believe, show patience and show valor and bravery against your enemies and be prepared. So rabita actually means to be prepared for a battle. Rabitu, wa, and ittaqullah, fear God, la'allakum, so that you, tuflihun, may succeed. So idiomatically it would mean, oh those who believe, be steadfast, show bravery against your enemy, and be prepared to fight them, and fear God so that you may succeed. The flihun is from falah, so that you may succeed. So this brings us to an end to a long series of sessions that we had regarding Surah Al Imran, and I've just explained the last part, the literal translation of the last part. So if you have any questions regarding this last part or regarding the overall surah in any way, please raise them.
Shabana Ansari, please unmute your mic and ask your question.
ये इसमें जो है यगुर्रन्नकुम
ला
ये
यगुर्रन्नका,
ला
ला
यगुर्रन्नका
यगुर्रन्नका.
जी
Yes.
लेकिन ये दूसरी आयत में जैसे वो गुरूर का लफ्ज आया है शैतान के लिए भी बोला गया है और दुनिया
right.
की जिंदगी के लिए भी बोला गया है तो ये गुरूर जो है ये धोखे वाला है और हमारा जो उर्दू का है वो दूसरा इनमें कुछ डिफरेंस है
No, it is the same thing. So you see, la ghurur is someone who leads you astray, someone who deceives you. So the Satan is also called by the same name. So that is because of the fact that the basic weapon of Satan is to deceive people, is to lead them astray. So the word ghurur is actually used for Satan himself in the Quran. If you look at some of the other instances. So la yaghurrannaka would mean that do not be deceived by the glamour of these people. So let not the glamour of these people deceive you. So basically the root word, the root meaning of this word is deception. The word gharur is also used in the same way in the Quran.
और जो उर्दू का गुरूर होता है वो तो जैसे तकब्बुर के लिए है और उसके लिए आता है तो ये
that is yes,
कोई चीज है
yes, the word is the same, but in the Urdu language the meaning is different. In the Arabic language, the word that you use in Urdu is called istikbar.
Okay, got it. Maz, please unmute your mic and ask your question.
So, Dr. Sahab, I would like to ask a question about the azab that was decided for Jews, especially when Jesus was given wafat. So, in the Quran, it is said that the azab will continue till Qiyamah after few intervals. And then another place in the Quran, it is said that وَمَا كُنَّا مُعَذِّبِينَ حَتَّى نَبْعَثَ رَسُولًا. So these particular group of Jews, for example, which is receiving azab today, we can say that no Rasul was directly sent to them, but we also agree that azab is being given to them. So does it mean that somehow azab can continue even before Qiyamah, although no direct messenger has been sent to them?
Yes, I do get your point. Actually, you see, you have to understand that the Quran speaks of two types of punishment that were given to the Jews. So one of them was denying Jesus, and for them we know Titus attacked them, and he raised down the Temple of Solomon in 70 AD, and these were the people who had actually denied Jesus. So, and this is the one that is being referred to by the words that you have just said, "Ma kunna mu'azzibina hatta nab'asa rasula." So Jesus was sent to them. They ended up denying them. So the generation that was there in the times of Jesus who denied Jesus was actually routed by Titus. So that is referring to that part. But then there is another punishment which is referred or mentioned in the Quran regarding the Banu Abraham, the progeny of Abraham. And that is that if in their own capacity and in their own right, if they end up denying God's verdicts, if they end up being unjust in their collective capacity, so then for them, until the day of judgment, God will make them follow this pattern that they'll always be humiliated at one place, they'll gather at another place, and then they will be humiliated. So that is basically a punishment that was given to the Banu Abraham as a whole, as a collectivity, as a whole polity, starting from Prophet Abraham right up to Prophet Jesus. As a nation, they were given this punishment. So that is a separate form of God's punishment that they deserved because of receiving prophets for 2000 years, continuing to deny them, and then denying the last prophet, and not only denying him but attempting to kill him. So this was a punishment that was given to the Banu Abraham, and it is still continuing. Wherever the Jews would be, they would gather there at some place, and then someone would rise against them and kill them. And the last time this happened, we know it was in the Holocaust, when Hitler was the one who had this fate come to them. But the one that you are referring to is a separate punishment, and that is what is always meted out to the messengers of the nation of God's messengers. So you must not confuse the two. So there's a punishment for the Banu Abraham, and there is a punishment for denying a messenger of God. That messenger was Jesus, and that punishment came to them through Titus, the Roman emperor. And this is a separate punishment which is given to the Banu Abraham as a whole. But that punishment was just given to the generation that had denied Jesus, the first one.
Thank you.
Shabnam, please unmute your mic and ask your question.
थैंक यू सर अभी आपने गरूर के बारे में बताया कि गालिबन उर्दू में का मीनिंग डिफरेंट है सर मुझे तो लगता है कि मीनिंग सेम है क्योंकि गरूर एक धोखा ही होता है अरबिक में आपने कहा कि इस्तकबार है इसका मतलब लेकिन सर मुझे लगता है कि अगर सेटन डेविल के लिए भी ये यूज हुआ है तो वो भी एक उसने तकब्बुर ही किया था ना और दैट इज जस्ट वो भी एक धोखा होता है तो
So you see, it's a matter of usage. At times, words are interconnected. They have their essence there. But when they travel from one language into another language, they do not necessarily have the same meaning. In the word gharoor, when it is used in the Arabic language, is used for someone who deceives. But in the Urdu language, when it is used, it means actually someone who is arrogant. So arrogance, I mean, the cause could be related. But we never use the word gharoor for deception in Urdu. We always use it for arrogance, for haughtiness.
Right, sir. Thank you, sir.
Bhatti Saab, Akram Bhatti Saab, please unmute your mic and ask your question. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Forgive me, I might not be able to express my question properly, but I'm trying to ask is that like Jews were in Torah, they were waiting for the last messenger, and in Torah says so, and so last messenger came, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But now people who are still waiting for someone to come back, where would you categorize them? I mean, are they denying too? Can I say that's where I am afraid to say that they deny Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam as last messenger. Then if that one who's gonna come is gonna be last messenger, that's what my.
So you see, you need to understand that all these three cousins, the Jews and the Christians and the Muslims, they are waiting for someone to come. So basically, the Messiah was Jesus. So when he came, the Jews did not accept him, for reasons that the Quran has stated that they did not want to accept someone who was taken to the cross or who was to be crucified, who did not have any followers. So Jesus was denied by the Jews. And since they were waiting for a Messiah because of the predictions that are found in their own books, and they thought that Jesus is not that Messiah, neither is Muhammad that Messiah. So the Jews are still waiting for their own Messiah because they did not accept Jesus to be the Messiah. And Muhammad, of course, they don't accept as a prophet for themselves. Now, Jesus himself, the Christians themselves, they are waiting for Jesus to return because for them, the eschatology is that near the end of times, Jesus is going to return and once again establish his rule over the whole wide earth. So Christians are waiting for the return of Jesus. And so are Muslims, because Muslims also think that the Quran and the Hadith tells them that Jesus is set to return. He's going to kill the swine and he's going to break the cross and he's going to once again establish the rule of God on the kingdom of earth. So you see, this is how you should understand it. Each of these nations is waiting for its own Messiah in some form or the other. But the Quranic version of the Messiah, or what the Quran says, is that Jesus was that Messiah. He came and he left. He came and he passed away. He's not set to return. So the Christians and the Muslims who believe that he's set to return, the Quran does not corroborate this. And as far as the Jews are concerned, because they think that, Jesus was not the Messiah, so they're still waiting for that Messiah. In fact, for them, if you look at their literature, they think that this Messiah is going to come. He is going to build the temple, or the temple will be built, and then he'll come after that. So it's one of the two. And that is when the Messiah would be ruling the rest of the world, and the Jews will achieve supremacy or world supremacy. So these are
my question about Muslims, because one seems like they're denying Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam being the last prophets. Number two, I think sometimes they think Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam did not finish the job. somebody's going to come to finish the job. So that's what my.
So I mean, as you see, they try to make sense of this by saying that he is going to finish off what Prophet Muhammad was supposed to do, and he did achieve that in his own times. We remember when he was there, Islam reigned supreme for many years. So it's like saying that once again he is going to come back, and when he'll come back, he'll follow the religion of Prophet Muhammad. So that's another thing that it'll say, that he'll once again achieve that supremacy that was achieved by Prophet Muhammad in his own times. But then that supremacy was thrown away. Muslims were stripped of that supremacy. So once again, they'll regain that supremacy with the advent of Jesus. This is what they commonly believe.
But that's not true.
And that's not true.
Allah says, Akmaltu dinakum, you know.
That's not true. I mean, Akmaltu lakum dinakum means that religion has been complete. So they don't deny this verse. They only say the Quran is complete, but it will now reign supreme practically on the face of the earth. And this will happen with the coming of Jesus, or the coming of the Messiah, as the Jews say.
Thank you, Alexa, but that's not true. That's all I wanted to
That is not true. That's not the Quranic version. But we are just referring to their beliefs.
Thank you very much.
So just to continue on this question, Dr. Saleem, if I may ask, if La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, if you're saying the Prophet is the last Prophet and then you're believing that somebody's coming after him, where does that place the people? Not that we're anyone to judge anyone. Where does that place those Muslims when they are not believing that he was the person who could complete the message?
They give us very explanation. They say that he was someone who came before Prophet Muhammad. So basically, Prophet Muhammad is the last prophet. If he's going to come again, he's not going to come again as the last prophet. He was already there before Prophet Muhammad. So it's just like he's just returning. So they make this historical argument that historically he was always there before Prophet Muhammad. So if he's coming again, that does not make him the last prophet. It's just he's just returning for a second time. His first return was the real life that he led, because of course, as a prophet of God, it was Muhammad who actually came after him. So it's like saying that the second return is something which is not going to in any way infringe on Prophet Muhammad's last prophethood.
वो कहते हैं उनकी उम्मती बनकर आएंगे तो उनकी उम्मती जो रसूल है तो रसूल अल्लाह ने रसूल बना दिया तो उम्मती बन के कैसे आएंगे?
That's another thing that they say, that when if ever he comes again, he'll not bring a new religion. Of course, he'll follow what Prophet Muhammad says. But that, of course, still raises the question which Bisma has asked, that how would still he be called the last prophet? So I was answering that they think that he would still be called the last prophet, Prophet Muhammad, because Jesus is not coming for the first time. Had that been happening, then he would have been the last prophet, because he has already come before Prophet Muhammad. So, I mean, that is how they try to make sense of it.
But then, what about the people who believe in Mahdi? What about that? Is that
so? We've already discussed that there's no concept of Mahdi. I mean, these are weak ahadiths that speak of Mahdi, and some of the ahadiths which are actually correct, they refer to a rightly guided caliph who would come right after the rightly guided caliphate in the times of the Khulafa Rashidun, and actually he was referred to in some of our narratives as Amir Muawiyah as the rightly guided caliph, and some people regard Umar bin Abdul Aziz to be that person, but that has already happened. So there's no Mahdi.
जी मैं भी ये इसी से रिलेटेड बात करना चाह रही थी कि मुस्लिम्स जो हैं उनका ये बिलीव भी तो इसीलिए है ना कि क्योंकि हजरत ईसा को जो है वो जिंदा आसमानों पे उठाया गया है, वो अभी जिंदा हैं, तो इसलिए वो दुनिया में वापस आएंगे और फिर उनकी तबाही मौत होगी, उसके बाद फिर वो मौत होंगे, क्योंकि उनका ये
this is also what the Christians also believe this. I mean, they also think that Jesus was taken alive and he's going to set to return. So this is no different from what the Muslims believe. Both the Muslims and Christians believe that Jesus was taken alive. He was not. I mean, of course, they say that he died, but then he was raised again. That is what Christians say. That death came to him, but then he rose from his death, which actually means that he became alive. And Muslims say that. I mean, majority of the Muslims say that he never died actually. And I mean, it's not that he was raised after his death. He was just lifted as a living person. This is some technical, difference, but the result is the same. That he is going to set to return actually, because he's living.
Thank you so much. Riaz, please, if you can keep your question short because we are almost out of time. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
very quick question. Assalamu alaikum, Doc.
Walaikum
How
salam.
do we corroborate this with the hadith of Bukhari that he says that Jesus will return, and just like you said, he will burn the cross and so on and
Now,
so
this
on.
is a longish question. I think we've already discussed this. If you look at some of our lectures that have been, I think I taught this course, Understanding the Hadith. So we discussed this return of Jesus in those lectures, and we actually had concluded that basically it's a Christian belief that has infiltrated into Hadith narratives, and that is how Muslims still believe that he is said to return. And then we also discussed that there is another specific view regarding the return of Jesus, and that is that this whole concept is in the form of a dream that was shown to the Prophet, and it actually refers to the revival of monotheism once again in Christianity. So breaking the cross would mean that this belief that Jesus died for the sins of humanity is going to be revived once again as a wrong belief. He'll kill the swine, which means actually that Sharia would be revived, because killing the swine was something that was a message given across that they can still eat the swine. So the swine was basically made legal for them. So all this is presented as a symbolism in the coming of Jesus in these narratives, and the way they have been presented looks as if it's a real time happening. But one interpretation of this is that basically all these events were shown to the Prophet uh, to have occurred or will be occurring near the end of time, and the way were shown to him was in a dream. And in a dream, things that are shown to people, they are always shown as a symbol. They are not to be taken literally. So breaking the cross or killing the swine, these are not actual happenings. These are symbolic happenings. They signify a certain thing, and they actually signify the return of Christianity towards monotheism.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saleem. We have a longish question, so I think I'm going to ask it next time. It's in the chat. Okay, Dr. Saleem, thank you for a wonderful session.